Hi to everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. I know this is a really busy time of the year and you're probably all exhausted and waiting for the summer to begin. I hope you've got a nice cup of tea or a cold drink. It's quite hot here in Cheltenham. I don't know what the weather's like where you are, but thank you so much. I've got a packed session today, lots to get through on Key Stage 3, lots of questions to raise in your departments and lots of things to show you. But we'll get started. I'm going to do a brief introduction, actually. I'll keep on that slide of myself, and then we'll go through the aims for today. So I'm Fiona Price. If you haven't come across me before, I'm an MFL product manager on the Pearson print team. So I'm leading on the Spanish resources, which are then in turn used to inform our digital resources on Active Hub. And we also have contact with the quals team, although we are a separate team. We're producing the resources rather than the qualification and the Pearson Edexcel exams. And we are making resources for AQA and Pearson Edexcel, as you'll be aware. And this session will deal with both boards and also people who are using Key Stage 3 Pearson resources and those of you who may not be. I was a teacher for many years, over 23 years before joining Pearson 2 years ago. And I'm joined by colleagues also from the print team. I've got Sharon Gagné and Kate Bonal, who are the French lead and the German lead. And I think we've got Kieran from quals joining us as well, which is amazing. So he can answer any queries you have. If you have queries as we go along, please do put them in the Q&A, and my colleagues will aim to answer them as we go along, and I'll deal with them at the end. There'll be a brief window at the end we can deal with those. So without further ado, I'm going to get started. And so the aims for today is really thinking about what could or what should Key Stage 3 look like in the context of the new GCSEs. And I'm sure it's something that you've been starting to think about in your departments and trying to plan for that. I'm also going to show you our new phonics resources in ActiveLearn, which I'm sure lots of you will already be using. Some of you may be subscribing to ActiveLearn but haven't found those yet. So I'm going to show you exactly what they look like and how they work. And also our new phonics assessments, which are also for subscribers. And if you don't teach with our resources, I'm hoping there'll still be food for thought in there and interesting thoughts to take away about phonics and how we really want that to look for Key Stage 3, because we know it's a big focus on the new GCSEs with dictation and read alouds. And I'm sure most of you will already be doing elements of that already. So it's just to try and think about that in a bit more depth. And I also want to talk to you about how you could best exploit our existing Key Stage 3 course content so that it works for either Edexcel or AQA, depending which exam board you've gone with. And we'll also just think about more general considerations to have in your teams if you're using other course materials of how best to prepare, because I know you're all incredibly busy preparing for Key Stage 4. And I think that Key Stage 3 therefore needs to work with that, because you can't do everything all at once. And then I want to talk to you a little bit about our next steps for Key Stage 3 and what we're planning to do next. So I'll just move on to the next slide, and we're going to just start thinking a bit more in depth about the new specification and how it impacts Key Stage 3. So our approach in the print team to the new GCSE, when we were thinking of the resources and planning and preparing them, was very much to think about these three pillars of teachability, relatability, and accessibility. As you'll know, the new specification is very much revolves around a set vocabulary list, obviously the grammar specification as well. And just like how the exam boards have approached it by adding in either thematic context or themes and topics with AQA, we very much thought, well, this is how teachers want to teach. They want the vocabulary to be set within topic areas. And whatever we've produced, the most important thing for us is to make sure that it actually works for you in a classroom, that you can pick up the resources and they will be engaging for your learners. They will allow you to teach in the way you want, and they'll reduce the amount of planning and preparation that you need to do, because we've all been there and been heads of languages and know like the amount of work that reform can bring. And really the priority really has to be Key Stage 4 and getting that going in September. And I think my overriding message from this session would be, don't put too much pressure on yourselves. It takes really the full 2 years of working through a new specification to get completely in the zone with it. And I think a lot of the questions about Key Stage 3 and what it should look like, you know, they might need to be parked and kind of explored and developed as you go along. And I would say very much to continue doing a lot of what you're already doing with Key Stage 3. I would not be reinventing the wheel. That's my overriding message today, because it's just too much pressure. And until you see how it really looks with this thinned out content and with these vocabulary lists and how the new specification works, You're not going to be able to address absolutely everything in your language teams, but of course you'll want to start making tweaks and starting to think about Key Stage 3 schemes of learning, which is what we're going to talk about today. So relatability, being engaging and interesting, the culture, these are things that are super important for Key Stage 4, something we definitely have at the forefront of our planning, but also obviously critical for Key Stage 3, and we're going to look at that in more detail. And accessibility, you know, the elite idea that languages is not for everyone, it's only for the brightest kids or a certain type of student. We really want our resources to work for everybody, regardless of their starting point. And we know that mixed ability teaching is the way that most of you will be teaching in your classrooms. And in Key Stage 3, that's an even more pressing concern or issue or something that needs to be tackled. So we're going to talk about that as well today. So with our existing courses, and if you're not teaching from our courses, I'm hoping that there are still things in here that you'll be able to relate to. I know there will be. So Dynamo, Stimmt and Viva. If you're a Studio user, a lot of the parallels and things I'm going to talk about will apply to Studio as well. But obviously Dynamo is our newest course. And so that's the one I'm going to specifically refer to. But there will be a lot of relevance to Studio as well. So the thing with our courses is that our existing Key Stage 3 courses, I would say, are fit for purpose to lead to the new Key Stage 4 GCSEs for 2024. In that, the inherent pillars are there, the teachability, the relatability, and the accessibility. And we'll look at areas you would want to tweak later on in the session. So the main thing is our progression. It's always at the forefront of our planning. How do we get that grammar progression really, really perfect so that you don't have to do all that legwork and all that thinking, so that students are meeting things in the right order and they can build up as they go along, like building blocks, adding on to what's been taught, improving their confidence. And with Key Stage 3, that's so important. It's the way that languages work. It's very much like, I would say it's like Lego, you know, building on what's been there before, and then you can end up with something really fancy and impressive, but you've got to start with the basics. And also with the skills and also with the vocabulary mapped around it and the topics. So we've always made that presentation very, very structured and clear to give them confidence, because we want students to do well in a language and we want to get them at that young age and get them enthused and see progress. Obviously, culture, if you look at our resources, is absolutely essential. I know that all of you, regardless of which course you will use, will be thinking that when we do research with teachers, and we know as teachers ourselves that the culture is what they love. It hooks them in, it's engaging, it's fun. Key Stage 3 is the ideal opportunity to add lots of rich culture. And the layout and design of our resources are really designed to help build knowledge of those countries, give them that cultural capital. We know that that's something that not all students have. They don't all have the experience of going on a holiday abroad. And we have to bring that into the classroom for them. And we all know that as language teachers, and it's really, really important to us to have that. It is in our new courses. You'll see that really clearly. If you've been to other training we've done, you'll see our culture spreads that we start each module with. And in our Key Stage 3 courses, that's also critical. And we want students to want to carry on. And we obviously have our differentiated textbooks for red and green in all the different languages. And many other aspects that make our courses accessible, thinking about every type of learner in your classroom. Is obviously, we have to think about neurodiversity, about all kinds of visual impairments that students may have, or with their hearing, or with emotional issues, where you have to make sure that the material is going to work in your average Key Stage 3 classroom, which, as we know, can be challenging. You can have a vast array of kids of all sorts of different backgrounds. They can be big classes, the timetabling can be tricky. And we know that the resources have to have all those different avenues open to you. So these, I don't propose to give you all the answers or solutions to this today in a relatively brief session, and these may be things that you've already thought about. But if I was trying to think about what I would do now with my department or with my team, or if I was a teacher, these are some of the things I'd want to think about, that especially as you start that new specification teaching and you realize, oh, right, okay, this is what it feels like. How does that then impact my Key Stage 3? So obviously you all have vastly different contexts. I think Key Stage 3 is probably, when we do research, the most varied area of all. So which languages you teach, how many hours per week, the timetable and constraints, how supportive your senior leadership team are with languages, the parents, what uptake is like. These will all be things that you are the experts on your school and your setting and what works best. And when they choose options, do they choose them in year 8? So you've got, you know, a whole period of time from year 9, or is it a later option? How do you assess them? There isn't a national curriculum now, so how assessment works can be really, really different. And our resources do try to address all of these different setups so that you can pick what's best for you and your learners. And how can we really get those rich cultural opportunities in? And that's weighed up with the pre-GCSE preparation. I know that most of you will want to do some sort of instilling of GCSE skills, because we know that the 2-year GCSE course, there can be a lot to pack in. And some of you may be doing a 3-year GCSE. And we're always in the back of our heads as teachers, MFL teachers, thinking, how do I boost uptake? We know ourselves how challenging that can be, where, you know, trying to encourage year 9 to do languages. Lots of schools are having amazing success, and I'm really positive about kids picking languages, but we know it's hard. It's difficult times for language learning and getting students to pick a language. And so we're always balancing getting those skills in place. For example, our resources for Key Stage 3 may have some low-level practice of photo cards, of role play, so they get used to them, but you don't want it to dominate everything and prevent engagement and prevent that rich culture, which is so important, you know, the projects, all of these things. And so I think these are some of the things to start thinking about. The new GCSE assumes no prior knowledge. So it assumes that students will start on a 2-year GCSE course in year 10 and not have any prior knowledge. Now, some of you may be planning to do that. I think in theory it is possible to do this. I think the majority of teachers and schools will expect their students to have had some degree of language learning in Key Stage 3 before they embark on the new courses. So the things with the new GCSE, I suppose the key things that you will already probably have thought about, but what we're going to think about a lot today is the nature of this vocabulary list, the 1,700 words or 1,200 words. How does that work for Key Stage 3? The specification grammar, I think, is probably less of an issue because the grammar hasn't radically changed. It's been stripped back, if anything, for Key Stage 4 in all of the languages. And actually, although there's perhaps more of a requirement for them to be really very expert on the key tenses, I don't think any of you will find that it's radically different to what we've already been doing. The only thing that's different is just to bear in mind that as well as the specification grammar and your vocabulary list, there are grammatical items on the spec list. So there are tense forms. For example, in Spanish, you've got the I and you will feature forms of certain verbs. They're listed as vocabulary, which is a bit different. I don't think it really impacts Key Stage 3, though. I don't think it's going to change the fact, right, I need to get my Key Stage 3 to be really, really good at the passé composé by the time we get to this point in French in Key Stage 3, or in German, right, perfect tense, how are we going to practice that? What topics are we going to use? Spanish, how are we going to make sure preterites in there, but they can still cope with present and the radical changing verbs? None of that will change. And I definitely wouldn't be reinventing the wheel with your grammar preparation for Key Stage 3. I think our courses and the courses you're probably already using yourselves will very adequately prepare them for what's coming. There is a focus on phonics, and that's what we're going to come onto in a minute. That's really important. It's a big aspect of Key Stage 4. I think a lot of you will already be doing this, but I'm going to talk a lot about the importance of keeping it very light and very fun in Key Stage 3. I personally wouldn't want to be assessing them on GCSE style dictations and reading louds. I would do it in a very light touch way, so it just becomes an embedded part of your practice. Because it is important, but lots of you will be doing it anyway. And our courses do give you a very structured approach to phonics and lots of material, which complements our Key Stage 4 resources as well. The rubrics in English is a good thing. That's obviously a really positive feature of this new specification. So that is a tweak you could make to your Key Stage 3. That you might find, well, actually, if I've got writing bullet points in the target language, I'm going to put them in English for them. However, I would bear in mind that in our Key Stage 4 courses, we have still left questions in the target language because pupils need to come across them. They need to be confident with that. So I'd be careful with Key Stage 3 not to completely change everything into English. If there are examples where they're question and answers with, that's part of the role play, isn't it? Understanding questions in Spanish. So you might still have an element of the target language there. In terms of the vocabulary, I suppose the big issue for you to discuss in your teams is to think about, well, what do we think about extra productive vocabulary? I would not propose that with Key Stage 3, you're going to stick absolutely rigidly to the 1,700 words. Yes, you will get more familiar with those lists and what's in there and what's not, and it may well inform what you're doing. But I think in our Key Stage 4 courses, we've always thought that students want to have extra productive vocabulary within reason. And I'm going to give you some specific examples. So in the new specification, in probably all 3 languages, but I'm particularly thinking of Spanish, but it does apply to all 3. You haven't got all your colours. You haven't got every food item you might normally teach in Key Stage 3. You haven't got a vast range of jobs, something that's a lovely Year 9 topic that you may have done. However, I still think you would want to do those things with Key Stage 3. You're not going to just teach them 2 colours and what's on the spec list, or if someone's dad's an engineer and you want to teach them that word, it's not on the spec list, you're going to tell them. The kids need to say and to write what they want to. So within reason, I think you can, of course, have some extra food items for having that rich culture. What I would perhaps start to think about, though, is when I'm teaching Key Stage 3, do they really need like hundreds of sports, every sport that was ever known, or every type of food? I used to teach that in Year 9. I do think the new specification is very thinned out in that way. So that might be a tweak I would make, but I wouldn't be making radical changes. I think that these are tweaks that I'm talking about, not massively changing everything. So let's go on to looking at our Key Stage 3 Phonics resources. I just want to make sure that you know where these are. This is the critical starting point. I apologise to everyone who's managed to find them. And if you're not a Pearson resource user, we are going to talk about phonics in more general terms as well. So if you subscribe, you will find within your resource page on ActiveLearn, the front of class books, then there's actually a pink bar which shows assessment. I'll show you in a minute. It's the teaching support materials, the critical bit. So if you go into that, you'll see that separate little thumbnail there with the phonics and vocabulary building pack. So vocabulary building is essentially your sentence builders. And then on the right-hand side, I've showed you what it looks like when you open it up. There is an absolute wealth of material. I cannot emphasize enough how much is in there. So if you haven't had a look, I'm going to give you a taster today. Please do go in because there's everything in there. They're customizable. They're designed for you to just download and go with, that you shouldn't have to do a lot of prep. And I think phonics ideally is your plenaries, your starters, little drip feeds, late on a Thursday, bit of fun. I think that's the way that I'd be using them. And that's very much how these PowerPoints are designed to be used, that they are just become embedded in what you're doing. If you are not a Pearson subscriber, these are available to purchase as a separate download, the phonics packs, which are for books 1 and 2, because books 1 and 2 cover all the phonics for Key Stage 3, the vast majority of the GCSE phonics. There's just a couple of bits that we thought, no, we'd leave that for Key Stage 4, but it's all in there. It can be recycled and revisited in Year 9. And with book 3, we have actually got phonics assessments for all the books, for books 1, 2, and 3. And this is where you'll find those. They're in the existing assessment material packs. We've updated them, and it's down at the bottom. And these are for all languages and for all 3 books. And I'm going to show you a bit more detail on those in a moment and what I think phonics assessments could look like in Key Stage 3, whether you're using our resources or not. These are not available to purchase separately. They're only available if you're a Pearson ActiveLearn subscriber. And just also to reassure you, if you're going to be using Active Hub for our new Key Stage 4, ActiveLearn will continue for Key Stage 3, and it will be available via really easy gateway. So when you go into Active Hub for Key Stage 4, you'll be able to select ActiveLearn within that for your Key Stage 3. So I'm just going to give you just a minute just to read through this. I don't want to read it out to you. This is just an explanation of the thinking behind our phonics pack. So I'll just let you read through that and then we'll move on. So hopefully everyone's had a time to look through that and obviously ask questions if anything's not clear. And I am going to show you these as well. I've got lots of examples. Just a little bit more information to read. They really, really are all those words: short, fun, engaging, and flexible. And I think whatever resources you're using for phonics, for me, these are the buzzwords. They need to be something that doesn't require you to do an awful lot. You can just pick them up and get going with your classes and have fun with it. When they're in Key Stage 3, students need to just have this as part of everyday classroom practice. We've always done it as MFL teachers, the sounds. It's just a little bit more structured and strategic for the new Key Stage 4, where you must cover every sound. And that's what these PowerPoints are designed to do. So whatever you're using, just make sure that the sounds are all covered and there's plenty of recycling and repetition, and that they're fun and engaging and light touch, and kids are not going to get freaked out, so that they find that speaking is part of everyday practice. We know they find speaking difficult, and if they can master phonics in Key Stage 3, they can cope so much better with understanding and then with producing the language. There's nothing worse, is there, than a student who gets to the end of year 9 and they really, really find phonics very hard. They can't say many words, they can't understand them because it's a massive barrier. And you kind of miss that window then, really, in Key Stage 4 if it's not been embedded before. The format of them is really very simple. They're the same for all the languages. As I say, they're literally something you can just get going with. So just briefly about the phonics assessments as well. There's obviously a lot of information for you to read through. I'll just give you a minute to do that, and then I'll talk about the kind of philosophy behind them and what I feel is probably the most appropriate thing if you're using other resources in terms of assessing phonics at Key Stage 3. Okay, just to obviously it's a very individual thing how you want to assess in your departments. I know from personal experience and the research that we did when I devised these phonics assessments with the team, and when we researched, teachers said, oh, Key Stage 3 assessments, really hard work, very hard to timetable, very hard to run, especially speaking. I know what it's like. You've got a class going crazy, you're trying to bring kids up one at a time, they're self-conscious, they don't want to do it. So I wanted to do things that you could either peer assess, that would be really, really quick and short and easy. You could get a little bit of data without too much stress, that they could record things for you and send them, and they'd be short so that you could just listen to a little snapshot. And I really wanted you to end up with just a simple, just like vocab test marks out of 10 when you come to your parents' evenings for Key Stage 3 and you've got a set, well, they were on 3s, now they're on 7s out of 10. I just wanted it to be like that. You may choose to do something different. You may decide that your Key Stage 3, you want them to do the longer types of dictation activities. I've called it transcription. It's the same thing. It's dictation. And have those 30 to 40 word texts. We felt personally that for assessing Key Stage 3, that was pretty heavy. By all means, practice it in class, and any of our short texts in our existing resources would give you opportunities to do that. Practice read aloud. But in terms of assessing them, that felt like it needed to be much more light touch, really. So that was kind of the thinking, and I'm going to show you some examples. So I've got loads of examples. I've got all languages. I'm going to have to go really quickly, and I can't show you all the full functionality, and they really are amazing. They're so fun because they've got these lovely game format within them. They also complement the Key Stage 4 ones we've done that are similar. You have got these PowerPoints, so please do have a play at home and spend a bit more time with them, especially if you've not had a chance to find them or you're not a subscriber, you think, oh, we might invest in these. But I'm just going to give you a taster, really. And obviously, these apply to all languages. So I've shown example ones, but for each type of game or task, the same equivalent will exist in German, French, and Spanish. They were all made together, so they're all the same level. So these are examples of French. So this is one of the presentation slides where they're focusing on silent final consonants, obviously really critical and really tricky for Key Stage 3. I'll just give you a short example of what they sound like.
Amusante. Amusante.
So you've got lots of opportunities for drilling, for presenting it, really clear, engaging. As I say, you don't need to do any prep. You can just pop it on the board and you're good to go. Lots of games, things they love, competitive, doing the pyramids, they love all that. What level can you get to? You could, and all of them are designed that you could do them in pairs, you could do them whole class, you make them as competitive as you like. I'm just going to have to go through these really quickly because there's lots of them. So you've obviously got some practice there where they can hear the difference between the two forms and what they sound like. We've got lovely tongue twisters. I'll just play you the fast one for a laugh.
J'ai 12 ans et j'ai 2 petits frères. Mes 2 petits frères sont rigolos.
And I know kids love this. Even year 11s will go with a tongue twister, won't they? So we're trying to keep it fun and getting them really involved. Noughts and crosses, lovely diverse visuals and images there. All the audio is embedded, so you just go with it. It shows you the sound that's been practiced at the top. I am going through these really quickly because I've got so many. Trapdoor, another popular game. We're doing nasal sounds at this point. I'm just going to briefly show you this one. Let me go into this next one. We've got many variations of these card games. So this one is a sound they hear.
Parce que.
And then they check it. And there's other different ones. There's a German one that I had, but I haven't got time to show you where they see a word, and it was practicing like Wind, Welle, and they have to say it and then they flick. It's to make it a bit fun, make it engaging for them. So I'm just going to whiz through these and you can have a play with these at home. This is based on a beautiful culture spread that we have in Dynamo 2, where it's just reinforcing that with the phonics within it. So it's always about the phonics being not an add-on, being like an embedded part of what you're doing, the grammar, the vocabulary, all of those things. Some Spanish examples, I'll just quickly show you this. We have these in all languages. So you pick the speed, you click for the phrase, you could have a child at the front, there's many ways that you could do this. Oh, and each PowerPoint has full instructions of how to play the games at the bottom, so you'll see that. And also to note that all of these were designed for non-specialist teachers, because we've all been there with the challenges of teaching Key Stage 3 when it's not your specialist language. I'm a Spanish and German specialist. I had to deliver French, and we put translations for everything in these resources. And the phonics assessments, all the unknown words are translated so that a non-specialist teacher could just pick them up and feel confident with them. So then they have to say the sound, you press go, and their car goes around the track, and you can have different coloured cars for different students playing. Very fun. This is some more drilling practice on accented vowels, all reinforcing what's coming in Key Stage 4, but it's light, it's fun, stress patterns are important for them. This goes on forever. I'm just going to quickly flick through it. It's obviously like guess the missing word, so you'd get them telling you what's missing, but they've got to do the silent H properly. So we've got these in all languages. Very visual, very engaging. You could do this as a whole class. You could have them in computer rooms. You could send them the PowerPoint. They could do it in pairs. Lots of options there. And if you go into the packs back where I showed you, there's lots of suggestions of games you can play and additional activities you can do. Every language has a spin the wheel. So you spin it. They have to say a word. It could be done in teams. This is practicing the th sounds, the the. Words we think they haven't met yet, or they might be tricky, are translated for them again, so non-specialist teachers are not caught out, as well as the students. We've got mystery words. There's lots of examples of these. This is practicing those ch sounds that's going on here. This is very similar to obviously the dictation practice you get on Edexcel, the new Key Stage 4 specification where they've got gap fill to do. And it obviously prepares them very well for AQA dictation as well, where they've got to focus on those sounds and get their spelling really accurate. Cognates are really important in the new specification. There's 2% of cognates in reading text, and there can be up to 2%, and also unknown words. We want to get them really confident with that. And these are really fun. This is blockbusters. So you have your teams, click twice for red, once for blue. They've got to say the word, move across the board. We've got these in all languages. We'll play a bit of Spanish just for balance.
Rebeca es rubia y tiene un perro marrón.
So fun and clear and accessible. Got a lovely pyramid with German with the S-set sounds coming here. Just keeping an eye on my time. There's lots of lovely things to show you, but lots to do. So this is another pyramid activity that you'll see that you can make it competitive. You can keep it light touch, just get them really keen and enthused about phonics as part of everyday classroom practice. There's another spin the wheel with the ts sounds going on there. Again, translations for words we think they haven't maybe met, they might not know, or they might be words that are key to the unit. I'm not quite sure how the decision was made here, but it's to support the learning and support the learners and support you as the teacher. Let's have a German one.
Ich koche in der Nacht und ich mache auch 16 Kuchen.
So nice and clear, but you could get them to do it very, very fast, make it fun, make it competitive. This is a game, sit down, stand up, about the U sounds, and then you've got the solutions that you can see what it should have been. So everything is within there. You don't have to do anything additional to that. Another trapdoor, you can see the German sounds being focused on there. Lots of drilling practice. I would say as well, really important for them to hear the sound in isolation, then within a word, then within a sentence, and then they can build up to those longer dictations and reading aloud. So that's really, really important. More noughts and crosses. We've got phrases this time for them to hear. I wanted just to show you assessments briefly, because there's lots of other things to talk about. As I said, the way these assessments were designed is that they were designed to be mainly at word level. The sentence level only really comes into the reading aloud, because we know that students find reading aloud slightly easier than dictation or transcription, because it's productive, it is harder for them. Whereas reading aloud, they can have a good go. So we made the reading aloud assessments have more challenge than the transcription, because it's harder. And particularly in French for Key Stage 3, there's some really tricky French phonics, like liaison, things that we've been very light touch. I don't think a year 7 is going to master that. So it's there, but we're not expecting perfection, and certainly not in assessments. And that's what I would recommend. I've just done a Spanish example because I haven't got time to do examples from all 3 languages, but this is exactly how they look in German and French as well. So first of all, they always have a mini quiz, which revises all of the sounds from one module, and it's for books 1 to 3. So this is an example from book 2 in Viva. So again, very visual, very fun. You can do lots of drilling. It finishes with a game so that they're ready to go, and then you go into the assessment. So with the read aloud, you'll see that there's the option for you to print these. So I would, hit the photocopier, get your little A5 sheets. This is how I envisaged it working, but it's very flexible how you would use these. The idea is that the mark out of 10 is the kind of gold standard for if you want to get data. Some of you may not. You may not need to get data on phonics. Some of you might want that data for setting, for Key Stage 4, for data drops, for reports, all of those things. The idea was that 11 and 12 are those kind of bonus, exciting extra marks, so you can get a bit of enthusiasm going. Who got 1 bonus point? Who got 2? All of that stuff. But that's how it was designed to be, that 11 and 12 were the challenge questions to obviously stretch your best learners as well. So in this one, and the marking is meant to be extremely, extremely straightforward. However you do your assessments, whether you use ours or your own, I would not be making the marking complicated. You could use the GCSE grids and marking criteria that AQ and Edexcel produced. I think it's a lot for Key Stage 3 personally. I think all you need is, have they said it clearly or not? Do they seem to know the phonics sound or not? So for that reason, we've only given 0 to 1 for numbers 1 to 10. And then in the bonus ones, they've got 0 if it's not clear, 1 if it's partially clear, 2 if it's fully clear. It's as simple as that, because that is enough. And my idea is you have 5 kids at the front of the classroom with their little sheet preparing. The rest of the class are doing a quiet worksheet. You call them up, you rattle through, they read you 10 words, you get the note, have a go at the bonus. That's it, done. Or you could get them to record them at home, or they could do it in pairs. The other thing is the answers are all built in, and you can deliver it as a PowerPoint. If you don't want to do it on paper, you can present it with a PowerPoint, and then you have the solution and you can let them hear it. So that's how it works. It's meant to be very user-friendly. Transcription is the same. You could get them doing it on paper. We do have grids that you can photocopy. Again, it's got those bonus questions. And also, it's very scaffolded. And I think with Key Stage 3, they need a lot of support in terms of how well they can cope with transcription or dictation. So you'll see the first 1 to 3, they've got a choice, what they're listening for. I think in the first one, it's escucho. I can't remember. It might be escucho. I don't know. I've put the answers in the bottom of the PowerPoint, so you'll be able to see. You'll see then it's building up in difficulty. So number 4 is bocadillo, and that's the double L, the AE that they're producing there. 7 to 10 then, they've got to do it by themselves. And 11 to 12 are unknown words for more challenge, because we know that in AQ and Edexcel Key Stage 4, they're going to meet 2 or 3 unknown words. So you need to start getting your Key Stage 3 kids used to that, because otherwise it just becomes a vocabulary test. It's not actually a test of dictation. And even when you're practicing in class, if you don't want to do formal assessments, they need to meet unknown words. So in this case, it's señal, signal, and chubasco, which is not a word they know in Key Stage 3 at all, but that's not the point. It practices the right sound. So make sure you build in some unknown words for your Key Stage 3. We're just going to have a think about then your planning and what you might do in terms of within your teams, mapping out what you already do. Now, I'm going to obviously look at our existing Key Stage 3 resources, as I said, for Pearson, for Dynamo and Stimmt and Viva, but you'll be able to think how it could apply to the resources you're using, and what things you want to tweak and what you might decide to do over the coming 2 years while you're getting used to Key Stage 4, but meanwhile thinking, what are we going to do with Key Stage 3? I think it's going to be a work in progress. but I definitely wouldn't reinvent the wheel. I keep saying that, you know, our resources are fit for purpose. And we are really interested to find out more from you and start researching how well the Key Stage 3 is working for you. But I'll talk more about that at the end. I'm going to look at Edexcel first, and then I'm going to look at AQA. And I've got examples for all three languages in both to show you what I mean. So for Edexcel, people who are doing Edexcel, we've obviously got our 6 thematic contexts. Just to remind you that in our course resources we've produced, we've actually got 8 modules, not 6, because we've split Studying My Future into a module on school and a module on work and future plans. And we've split My Neighbourhood into a module on talking about where you live, and then a module about the environment, and that's for all languages. I've also showed you the appendix from the Edexcel spec with the 20 subjects. The one thing I want to stress is the word fluidly is very important. All the vocabulary could be used fluidly across these thematic contexts. And also what it says at the bottom, this list of subjects is not exhaustive and is intended to support planning of teaching and learning. Please remember that it is, as I'm sure you're all aware, it is a vocabulary-driven specification. Those vocabulary items can come up and in any section, and it's important that your students are able to apply words across different contexts, whether that's the thematic context for Edexcel or themes for AQA. And although that list is very important, and we've covered all of those subject areas in our Key Stage 4 resources, you'll find that there might be additional things you want to put in, and that's fine. For example, Edexcel has some festival vocabulary. It's not listed there, but there is nothing wrong with you doing some work on festivals with your Key Stage 3, because La Tomatina, for example, in Spanish, is on the Edexcel spec list, so it's fine. It's absolutely fine to do that. And I think, remember, your Key Stage 3, you're wanting that cultural richness, that it doesn't matter if there's a few extra words in there to add engagement and give them some productive language. So that's just to give you an idea of that. And I'm going to show you how well our existing Key Stage 3 resources actually mirror those thematic contexts just in a minute. But just remember this idea of recycling and repetition. And with Key Stage 3, those high frequency words that are on the spec list, the jobs, the food items, the colours, all of those things, and not just nouns, you know, phrases and that they're going to use in their writing and their connectives. Those are the things in Key Stage 3 you want to be repeating a lot. So this is an example. I'm just going to show you an example of how you could map Viva 1, 2, and 3 to the thematic context and subjects. This is not the only way to do this. If you're not teaching our resources, you can think about what you normally teach with Spanish or with French or with German. This is just an example. There's no surprises there, I don't think. Talking about myself and my family, my free time, my school, my family and friends, my city, my town. These are very standard Key Stage 3 topics, and there is no reason for you to change that, because if you look how well they map to the Edexcel thematic context, everything is actually covered. I think the areas that are perhaps trickier for Key Stage 3 are things that are not unexpected. So if we think back to that list of subjects, mental well-being. So partly this may not be as well covered to some extent in the Key Stage 3 resources that you're using, because partly it's a more grown-up topic, it's more suited to the language of GCSE, might not be something you want to do with Year 7. Also, I think times have changed. Our Dynamo courses are very, very fresh and contemporary. But in the last 5 years, since they were published, the world has changed a lot, and we're talking a lot more about mindfulness and mental health. And so those might be some aspects that you perhaps think, would I want to add that in? Is it appropriate? I think it's probably more appropriate later on, and you'll see that our resources do start to address some of these things later on. It's maybe more suited to Year 9. So you might not be able to cover all of the subjects, but you'll see what a vast range of subjects come up. And the natural world, I've just shown you as an example. Here it applies to the weather, but that is part of the natural world, and it is part of the GCSE vocabulary. So Viva 2, you'll see very similar thing. We've got the vast majority of the thematic context covered. I think it's 5 out of the 6, but then Viva 3 picks up that other one. So between them, they pick them all up. Again, we've got holidays, talking about making plans, talking about going out to eat and restaurant vocabulary, things that places in a town, things that we'd expect to see in Key Stage 3. And I'm sure you are already doing with your Key Stage 3 learners. So that's to show you that. And then Viva 3, again, you'll see some really good coverage of all those subjects. We're starting to see things like equality coming in. It's one point I would make that if you do use our resources, don't discount book 3. I know sometimes it can feel that there's not enough time or you're in a rush to get onto some foundation material in year 9, but the book 3 in all of our languages is incredibly well suited actually to the new GCSE because of like that module, which there is an equivalent in all of the languages about. This is about young people campaigning and about environmental issues and equality. So do think about that when you're doing your planning, that actually some of those more grown-up topics, in our case, they do come up more in the book 3, are very, very well suited as preparation for the new GCSE. I'm just going to show you just a brief example from German. I don't want our German colleagues to feel left out, and to make sure that I'm showing you that actually everything I'm saying does apply in all of the languages. I just haven't got time to show you all of it. So Stimmt 1, you'll see, covers all 6 thematic contexts. Again, there is nothing surprising there. My world, family and pets, my free time, school, going on a trip. These are all things that lots of you will be covering as very standard year 7, year 8 type vocabulary. And it's covering, you know, lots of these Edexcel subject areas well. Just to show you the AQA. So if you're an AQA teacher, that's the board you're going to use in the new GCSEs. We know that we've got our 3 themes with topics within them. Again, I would really stress to you the importance of not treating these as a very rigorous set order and must be covered in this way and ticked off the list, because remember, it's a vocabulary spec and it's fluid, and the vocabulary it can be very subjective, deciding which topic it actually fits in with. And that's how we've addressed it within our Key Stage 4 resources, that you need to have this recycling repetition. You don't want students to only see a word as being within a particular topic. So we do cover all of this within our AQA Key Stage 4 resources. All of the topic areas are covered. Sometimes the order is different though, because of the nature of the language. That in Spanish, identity is quite tricky to start with. If you were doing that in Key Stage 3, I don't think it would really work, because you've got reflexive verbs. It's not a great starting point. So we've gone with free time and then holidays, which works for Key Stage 4, and I would argue is very appropriate for Key Stage 3. So we're covering it. It won't necessarily be in the order of theme 1, theme 2, theme 3. So I've picked an example to show you our beautiful French cover there, our AQA book. Saw that pop up. And that's actually just been published. Exciting. So get your hands on that if you want to buy our AQA books, and I'm sure lots of you will. If you're using AQA, they are available. There's a 35% discount until the end of September on all print books, and that's for Edexcel and AQA. But German is, I think, is published as well now, and Spanish is going to be later next week. So just to show you, this is an example of mapping of the Dynamo topics. Again, if you're using Studio, there will be parallels, but I picked Dynamo because it's our newest resource. And this is just showing how they map to the AQA themes and topics. And you'll see that the coverage is very rich, that actually all of those themes are being covered. We're getting that lovely recycling and repetition we want to see. We're getting a good cross-section of those topics covered. And no surprises, the return to school, more detail on life at school, free time, family life, your time. These are not unexpected things. If you're teaching Key Stage 3, I can guarantee that everyone on this call is probably saying, yeah, I do that already. So it's a case of tweaking. Is any of the vocab a little bit too dense? Does it need to be stripped back? Is there an excessive amount of food or sports or things that we think, I don't think they're really going to need that. But don't discount things like culture and those extra sections at the end of each module, diving into that, the celebrations. They're really rich in celebrations and celebrity culture, which is obviously important for AQA. But if you're an Edexcel user, I'd still argue that they have a place in your Key Stage 3 classroom for engagement and cultural capital. So Dynamo 2, again, no surprises, lots more in-depth looking at festivals and sports and holidays, some really good coverage of those topics. So you can do the same with the resources you use and within your teams. These are just examples. Dynamo 3 is a fantastic resource, so well suited for preparing your year 9s for that GCSE work. I'd really encourage you to look at it if you haven't, because it's got some amazing stuff in there. Environment, those kind of topics. And then just to show an example from German, our beautiful German cover there. This is an example of Stimmt 1 and how it maps to AQA. And you'll see the recycling of those themes, good coverage of topics coming up. So I'd encourage you to do the same with whichever resources you're using, to start thinking about the mapping. Are we covering a good selection of the themes or the thematic context, whichever board you're doing? Do we think there's any areas that are quite dense that we could strip back a bit? Are we happy with what we've got? But don't go crazy with it, because you will change your mind as you teach this new Key Stage 4. We know there's less vocab, and I think once you've done it for 2 years, you'll have a much better handle. And I'm sure I will as well, because it's hard to imagine. We've done so much research and preparation for this and thought about every eventuality. But until teachers have got in classrooms and done it for 2 years and felt what that's like, I am hoping that with 8 modules, they are thinned out in terms of content and vocab. And it'll be really interesting to see how that goes and how you feel then about, do you still want to do a 3-year GCSE, for example? Is there more room in Key Stage 3 for more projects and cultural work? And these are all questions that you'll be asking yourself and will hopefully become answered as time goes on, but I wouldn't go crazy with reinventing your entire Key Stage 3. I don't think it's needed. So just on that note, this is our Spanish AQA higher cover as well. I've managed to get them all in there somewhere. And obviously we've our lovely Edexcel higher resources are all printed as well. So get hold of those, and the foundation books are going to print very soon and be available in schools in August. So back to Key Stage 3, obviously I would really stress that you shouldn't start again, and you should keep doing what you're doing and just think about what I've said in terms of adding in those phonics, that light touch phonics, thinking about, do you want to assess phonics and how? Thinking about the nature of the amount of vocab you're going to teach on particular areas and compare it to the 1700 words, but don't get hung up about it. If you want to teach additional productive vocab, that's absolutely fine. Don't reinvent all the grammar. I definitely wouldn't do that. I think it will already work very successfully for Key Stage 4. At Pearson, we do want to know how teachers are getting on as we go into that early autumn term, and how you're getting on with your planning for Key Stage 4. We want to think about our Key Stage 3 resources. Do we want to do any refreshing or any updates? How are people getting on with the resources? We really, really want to hear your feedback. So we will be putting out a forum asking for participants, and we totally welcome teachers' views. I think particularly as you really get stuck into the new GCSE courses, and I'm sure you'll all have lots of ideas and suggestions about how you feel then about Key Stage 3, and we definitely want to know about that. That's really important, okay? And I think that was the main bit of information there. So I just wanted to talk a little bit, so we've got some time for questions at the end and anything I've forgotten to mention. We've got some upcoming webinars. We've done a lot already. You'll see the list there. So there's 5 sessions have happened. I know those first 2 are on our YouTube channel, and we're working as quickly as we can to get the other sessions uploaded there so you can watch them back at your leisure if you didn't get a chance to see them. So we've got Kate delivering 2 sessions next week, one for AQA on the 2nd of July and one on the 3rd of July for Edexcel on developing confidence in speaking, and really showing you all our resources in great depth and picking out how you would do that. And then Shahom is doing a session on grammar in context, which is on the 11th of July. And I'm going to put some QR codes up for you just in a second. We are obviously on to time for questions. This is our lovely Edexcel French cover here. But I'm just going to put my screen just fixed on these QR codes that you've got them. So we've got our qualifications team are doing amazing getting ready to teach events. And there will be people from the print teams trying to go to as many of those sessions as we can so we can answer your questions. There are still quite a few still to come. I know I'm going to one down south, further south than I am already quite soon. So please have a look at those, and obviously look at our remaining training, and that's the link to the YouTube playlist there. So I think that's everything. I'm going to leave it on that slide. I'm just going to have a look at the QA and see if there's anything that needs to be gone through. I don't know, Shahom or Kate, if there's anything you want to pick up or address to the whole group, or do you want me just to look through the questions and just go through some of those, read those out?
Hi, Fiona. We just got a question that came in, which is about advice choosing between Dynamo Vert and Rouge options.
Oh, good question. Yeah, I mean, you're the expert, Shahom, more than me. I have taught Dynamo. I mean, it's a difficult one, isn't it? I'm sure Shahom will have his own thoughts. I can give you mine, and then he is very much the French expert on this. I would have said that it really depends on your setting and your learners, and you know your learners best. And actually, I wouldn't agonize about it, because both Rouge and Vert will prepare them well for Key Stage 4. As I was saying, they cover a great deal of whether it's thematic context or themes, but you'll know like what's going to work best in your setting with the classes you have in front of you. So I would stick to what's comfortable and familiar for you. I don't know if you'd give any different advice to that, Siobhan, or if that's kind of in line with what you'd think.
No, it's pretty much in line with what I think. I think the grammar on the Ver version has probably been stripped back a little bit compared to the Rouge. The Rouge is a very good preparation for your higher students for GCSE, especially Dynamo 3. But the Ver would just do as good of a job, really, just with that stripped back grammar element.
Yeah, no, I think that's excellent. I just saw there was a question here about resources on Active Hubs. It's probably worth me reading that one out in case people haven't seen that. Saying that some of the resources have the draft label. When are the final ones going to be available? When are we going to have access to the Spanish materials and the conversation questions at the end of the book? That's excellent questions, Marina. Thank you. Yeah, so the draft watermark in terms of our samples that have gone on the website are for materials that haven't been published yet in Foundation. So I presume that's the same on Active Hub then, is it, Siobhan? That's why they have the draft, because they've not been published.
That's correct.
So obviously, yeah, so we're working as quickly as we can. Now, I know we've had a few queries around Spanish. I think if you're a school that offers multiple languages, it's just taking time to get them out. We've got lots and lots of people to get signed up. So I wouldn't panic. They are going as quickly as they can. We have actually got, I've got an email address for the sales team. I'll pop that in the chat just in a minute so that people, I don't know, Siobhan and Kate, if you're able to do that. I think I put it, it's in the RFAQs document. If you're able to find it and put it in the chat, it's just the MFL 2024 one, I think, but if you can see that in the FAQs, it's down towards the end. We'll put that in the chat, because if you've got questions about subscriptions or you're having problems with getting onto Active Hub, I would say that email is a really good first point of call, so that you can get in touch with the relevant people and find out what's happening. Yeah, it's MFL 2024 at pearson.com, capital letters on MFL, and we'll put that. Oh, there we are. Thanks, Siobhan. So yeah, I would bear with us, and you will get the Spanish materials. It's just, I think French has gone on first in some cases, and it might depend on how many languages your schools offer, but they are working as quickly as they can so that new subscribers and existing subscribers can all get on as soon as possible, so that you can start doing those trials. I think there was a question about resources. I'm hoping everyone's found those. In terms of the PowerPoint should be on the screen, and you'll get the recording sent to you as well. A few questions about that. I don't know, Claire, if you're able, I think, oh yes, I think Brian has answered that actually. Yeah, so there's do we need to put the link on for everyone in the chat? I don't know if everyone can see that. There is a link there to get resources. It's in the answer to Montserrat's question about resources. We can maybe pop that in the chat, might be good, so everyone can see it. I think
we've just got a question about a 2-year scheme of work for Key Stage 3 Spanish.
Okay, let me see. So what have we got there? Can I see that question? Open question. Okay. A Key Stage 3 2-year scheme of work for Spanish. I'll have to check that actually. I know we have got a big variety of schemes of work on ActiveLearn. So have a look in all the teaching resources there. I'm going to I'll put my email in the answer there for you, Victoria, so you can let me know if you can't find what you're needing, because I'd have to look and just check that. I have taught all of the Viva resources, but not for a couple of years now, so I don't want to give you the wrong answer. But yeah, I could get back to you about that, Victoria, if you can't find what you need. I think all the schemes of work should be there. Is that right, Siobhan? On ActiveLearn, they should be available, all the schemes of work that are there. It might be worth, Victoria, checking if you're the Segunda Edición as well, rather than the older version of Viva. It might be worth checking that, because I have a feeling it's probably best to look on the newest version of Viva, the Segunda Edición. But I've just put my email there so that you can ask me a bit more detail about that. Anything else? We've just got a couple of minutes left. Are we keeping both Dynamo and Studio? Yes, that's been answered already. No plans to retire Studio. We still sell it. And obviously we would recommend Dynamo though. I've taught both, and Studio is great and it's very solid and it will prepare them for Key Stage 4, but Dynamo is perfection. It's a great resource. It's just so fresh and new. So that would be my personal recommendation, but they will both still be there for you. Okay. Another question about Studio. Yeah, and that's a good point from Jerome, that the phonics and vocabulary packs are designed to work with Stimmt and Viva Segunda Edición. That's an important point. So if you want to upgrade to the Viva Segunda Edición, that's worth contacting that email, the sales email, and getting put onto that one, because the packs, you'll only get access to the packs with Dynamo. You won't get the phonics packs with Studio. Although, as I said, if you're a non-Pearson user, you can buy the phonics packs as a separate download, but you can't buy the assessments. They're only for subscribers. You can share the video recording. They're going to go on our YouTube list, which is, I've got the QR code there. Bear with us. We're still loading those up, but there are a couple on there. We've answered the vert and rouge option, and the same applies for German and Spanish in terms of choosing between red and green. The red is obviously going to have more in-depth grammar, as Jerome said, but it really is dependent on your learners and what they need. Yeah, and the cost, I can't answer questions about cost, unfortunately, but our sales teams are wonderful. They're working so hard to get everyone set up, whether you're new to Edexcel or you've used Edexcel for a while, whether you're using our resources or not, there's all kinds of combos and they will help you. And that's the email there. And yeah, I think that looks like all of the answers, unless Kate or Jerome or Kieran, anyone wants to chip in with anything else, or anyone else on the call who'd like any final questions they would like to have answered. I'm hoping that's been useful for you today, and I would really wish you the very best of luck with all of your planning. I know it's a huge amount of work. Please don't be too daunted. Look at all our resources. We've tried to make it all as user-friendly as possible, so you don't have to spend the summer planning everything. You can just go with our ebooks. They're ready to go. Everything will be there for you. The schemes of work are available. And that's an important thing to mention. If you've downloaded our schemes of work for Key Stage 4 and they say draft, they really are very nearly there. We're just doing final proofreads, so don't feel you can't use them. You really can use them for planning, that's fine. And yeah, with your Key Stage 3, just don't try and change everything overnight. Keep with what you're doing, make those little tweaks I've suggested, see how you go, keep talking to us about what you need, how things are working. And plan with your colleagues, and don't make life too hard for yourselves. It's a lot to do with changing Key Stage 4. I wouldn't be changing all of Key Stage 3 overnight. And what you've got with Pearson will complement already really well what you're doing for Key Stage 4. I don't see any more questions coming in. Everyone, I think, is happy, so I'm going to let you go and enjoy what's left of your evenings. Hopefully not a pile of marking in Year 10 exams or anything like that. Hopefully you can have a little rest. And yeah, I hope the rest of term goes well, and enjoy your summer. And we're here. Any questions, please let us know. We're on social media as well. I'm on LinkedIn. If you're in a price for the Y, I'm on Secondary MFL Matters as well. And Jerome and Kate are too. So please ask. We're always happy to help. And thank you to my colleagues for supporting. Thank you to everyone for coming. And yeah, I'll hopefully meet some of you in person at the Getting Ready to Teach events or other events in the future. Thank you, Claire. I think we're able to close the session now. Thank you very much for your help.